This is where the story began. Until this point, no one had taken Mr. Allende's crazy ideas seriously. The book was passed around the research department in the Navy, and it eventually found its way to a contractor of the Navy named Vero. Vero decided to print up a limited number of copies of the case for the UFO, including Allende's notes. This copy is known as the Vero edition. It is freely available online at the moment, and I will post a link in the comments section. The following is an excerpt of these notes. Note: anyone reading this book would have to know that electron quantums within molecular structures are similar in scope of field as planets' orbits. They would have to know that electrons in metal go across what in planetary systems would be billions of miles, leaving 3 a gravitational field, dead spot or node, or vortice or neutral, as this one thing is variously called. Realizing this, as Dr. Albert Einstein did, it shows clearly how solids may become energy or dissolute, and how they may pass easily out of visual scope instantly. This is merely one clue gleaned from Einstein's theory of a unified magnetic field through all substances and throughout whole intergalactic universe. U.S. experiments 1943 on one part of it proved plenty. Mr. A, page 14. U.S. Navy's Force Field Experiments 1943 October produced invisibility of crew and ship. Fearsome results, so terrifying as to, fortunately, halt further research. Mr. A, page 27. Ethereal types similar to results of Navy experiments in force field invisibility, 1943 solids go through them. No harm to occupants at all. Mr. A, page 83. Tried that with blank and I on blank, and he blank was drunk enough to slip out of the freeze, and he made them know it in no uncertain terms. They put us down and then unfroze the crew, who to this day do not remember it. They can't. Mr. M was chief mate. Hatteras, 1943. Mr. B, page 94. X's crossed out by Jimmy. Perhaps they detected field activity of Navy DE, which was close by, before testing an invisibility experimental gadget. Mr. A, page 94. Little men do not remember to always remain visible. When embarrassed, they go pop, and thus they hide. Reason repeated HFE ship state gives LMS this ability. Thus now you see overall wisdom of Einstein's retraction of his unified field theory. In U.S. Navy's ship invisibility experiments 1943, results of such uninformed tinkering seemed to show the correctness of his reason for retraction. Jemmy, page 150. In a letter dated April 1st, 1959, Vero writes of sending head of Project Blue Book, Captain Ed Rappelt, a copy of the Vero edition. In it, they reveal that 1 year earlier, the Vero edition was first published. Dear Colonel Rappelt, remembering your great interest in UFOs, I have finally succeeded in obtaining your address so I could send you a copy of a book we reprinted about a year ago. An explanation of its source is contained in the introduction. The book is being sent by separate mail. I hope you enjoy the notations added to Mr. Jessup's originals. Sincerely, Austin M. Stanton. On April 20th, 1959, Morris K. Jessup died. The official report declared his death a suicide. Morris K. Jessup is best known for his connection to the Philadelphia experiment. The Case for the UFO was his best-selling book, but during his lifetime it did not sell many copies. The death of Morris K. Jessup sparked curiosity in the UFO community. It was not until after his death that his book received widespread attention, specifically the Vero edition. The UFO community speculated that Mr. Jessup's death was a murder because he knew too much. But the fact is, Morris K. Jessup was recently divorced, and after his divorce he was in a car accident which he never fully recovered from. In addition to this, he wasn't selling many books, and his publisher rejected his later manuscripts. Such were the circumstances of Morris K. Jessup. He was depressed, and understandably so. The death of Mr. Jessup inspired many to sell books about the Philadelphia experiment, including the parts with Mr. Allende and Vero. But they used the death of Mr. Jessup as a hook to sell their books, which I find disrespectful. In 1963, Vincent Gaddis published a non-fiction book entitled Invisible Horizons, The Mysteries of the Sea. In it, he relates the Philadelphia experiment as written about in the notes of the Vero edition. In 1978, George Simpson and Neil Berger published a novel entitled Thin Air. It is a fictional thriller that was influenced by the Philadelphia experiment story. On March 30th, 1978, Mr. Allende mailed a copy of the Vero edition to his parents. In a handwritten letter dated March 30th, 1978, Carlos Allende wrote his parents the following. Dear Dad and Mom, enclosed is a book I co-authored with Professor Morris K. Jessup of the University of Michigan nigh 24 years ago. Do not ever never part with this book because its original price was $25 3 years ago when this third reprint of it was printed, but now, as it is a very limited edition, the price has actually doubled, as have many other things in those inflation-plagued days. And so this book I helped to write, alone by myself, with me, Mr. A or Mr. B, is now worth $52.50. Yes, $52.50, tax included. It started out at my insistence with the U.S. government's Office of Naval Research scientists, and then printers, to be only for our scientists, and even then only for U.S. government Navy scientists of the Office of Naval Research and Development, and in short was for about 12 years an absolutely secret book, never meant for public eyes, not even for any other scientific eyes, except the scientists of Office of Naval Research. It was until the NASA Soyuz Apollo space mission of 2 Julys ago, the world's very most dangerous book or so, scientists themselves tell me. However, during the Apollo-Soyuz space mission, an invisible star, was discovered, and so now reluctantly, all science worldwide knows that 21 or more years ago, I knew that force fields plus UV light cause the faint invisibility found in that truly invisible star. I herefore, as all science knows, what I have known and kept secret for nigh 23 years, it is not such a totally dangerous book at all, and so you now be allowed to be read by public eyes. Much love, your son, Carl M. Allen, C. M. Allende. P.S. I have autographed this copy only for you with both my names, Allen and Allende. Love, Jr. Mr. Carlos Allende was clearly very proud of having co-authored the Vero edition with Morris K. Jessup. In this letter, Mr. Allende clearly admits to being Mr. A, Mr. B, and Jimmy, the author of the notes in the Vero edition. Mr. Allende clearly confesses that he alone, beside the late Morris K. Jessup, authored the notes. A book I co-authored with Professor Morris K. Jessup. This book I helped to write alone by myself with me, Mr. A or Mr. B. In 1979, Charles Berlitz and William Moore published a book entitled The Philadelphia Experiment, Project Invisibility, which purports it is a true story. As more books are written on the Philadelphia Experiment, Mr. Allende writes more letters to the authors. Mr. Allende was unable to earn more than a few $100s talking about his story, while others were profiting greatly. On September 8, 1996, the U.S. Navy officially declared the following. ONR has never conducted any investigations on invisibility, either in 1943 or at any other time. ONR was established in 1946. In view of present scientific knowledge, ONR scientists do not believe that such an experiment could be possible except in the realm of science fiction. When the U.S. Navy officially responds by saying it never happened, the UFO community says, of course they would say that. They're the government, it's their job to lie. While I disagree that the government has never conducted any type of invisibility experiment, I do agree that the Philadelphia Experiment is science fiction, specifically the science fiction written by Mr. Carlos Allende.